Whatever its contemporary associations, the natural home of political ecology lies with the right, not the false right associated with the Republican Party or American conservatives, whose conservatism is little more than a desperate and self-destructive attachment to the liberal principles of the Enlightenment, but by what Julius Evola called the true right, with its timeless devotion to order, hierarchy, and justice, entailing implacable hostility against the anarchic and disintegrating principles of the postmodern age. However, while a commitment to ecological integrity has long been a mainstay of the European traditionalists, in the United States it is typically regarded as a plank in the progressive political platform, part of a pre-packaged offering of open borders, economic redistribution, and amoral individualism. The absence of any broad right-wing consensus on environmental questions in this country is partially due to the fact that our mainstream conservative party, a tense coalition of Protestant fundamentalists and neoliberal oligarchs, has proven unwilling to conserve the last vestiges of heritage American society. This includes the purity, wholeness, and integrity of our native land, which is significantly reflected in the American national character. Articulating a right-wing approach to ecology, while exposing its subversion by the political left, therefore remains a necessary task due to its invariably progressive connotations in this country. The argument for the essential place of ecology in any program of American restoration, including the form that this should take, should differ markedly from other so-called conservative approaches. It is not premised merely upon our duty to wisely conserve natural resources for future human use, nor upon the restorative power of natural beauty and recreation, nor is it a patriotic commitment to preserve the heritage of our homeland. These all have their rightful place, but are subordinate to the ultimate principle of ecology, as it should be understood, that the natural world and its laws are a primordial expression of a cosmic order, and accordingly deserve our respect. Recapturing the metaphysical and ethical outlook of the traditional world, while restoring a European-centered society in accordance with it, therefore demands a defense of the natural order from those who would seek to subvert it. To begin, it is necessary to distinguish between the right and left-wing variants of ecology, which differ greatly in their metaphysical and political foundations, so as to constitute two wholly separate approaches to environmental preservation. Leftist or progressive ecology is essentially the outgrowth of Enlightenment ideals of liberty and egalitarianism, but extended into the natural world. Progressive ecology comes in two guises. The most publicized is the elite's technocratic, globalist version, associated with the European Green Movement, the neoliberal socialist political class, the American Democratic Party, and myriad NGOs, international agencies, the academies, and celebrity advocates across the West. When it's sincere and not merely a power grab or a cross upon which to nail ecocidal white patriarchs, this variant of progressive ecology pins its hopes on clean energy, multilateral accords, sustainable development, and humanitarian aid as the necessary means by which to usher in an ecologically sound society. Its religious symbolic issue is global warming, an ongoing interglacial climate trend which has lasted for 20,000 years now, but fault for which is assigned almost exclusively to the developed world, particularly the white middle class, which is punished via carbon taxation and regulations which penalize Western nations for their historical sins. The second version is avowedly more radical in its political prescriptions, and is best understood as the militant ecological arm of the far left. It finds its army amongst the adherents of the post-80s Earth First and Animal Liberation Fronts, as well as green anarchists, anarcho-communists, Antifa, and eco-feminists. Its tactics are mass demonstrations, civil disobedience, and minor acts of sabotage that are often branded as eco-terrorism. Activists who subscribe to these views tend to reject Western civilization altogether and work to combat its cultural integrity, accusing it of the systemic heresies of hierarchy, racism, patriarchy, speciesism, homophobia, transphobia, classism, statism, fascism, white privilege, industrial capitalism, and so on. They desire an end to the exploitation of life on Earth by breaking down all the rules of law, through a process called total liberation. Though drawing upon romantic primitivism and transcendentalism, the philosophical foundations of far-left ecology can be traced more directly to the 60s counterculture, critical race theory, feminism, the equal rights movement, and cultural Marxist ideology. Despite their ostensible commitment to natural preservation, both variants of left-wing ecology ultimately devolve into a fixation on environmental justice and simulated humanitarianism, becoming altogether disingenuous, while lacking the features of a sincere, holistic, ecological understanding. Those latter qualities within the environmental movement, in fact, had a much earlier development in the West. For many of its founding groups, such as the Romantic poets, the New England Transcendentalists, or the 19th century natural philosophers, nature mysticism was the contemporary expression of a primordial doctrine, one that emphasized hierarchical, cosmic orders, and the devotion to forces that transcended mankind. For men in the West, this ancient principle had been expressed in the symbols, customs, and literature of the traditional Indo-European religions, European paganism, and Vedic Hinduism, gradually finding root in the teachings of the Pythagoreans, Neoplatonists, and finally the Stoics. These naturalistic traditions became foundational for the early movements of modern Western ecology. The foremost belief in these early traditions was the doctrine of orders of hierarchy, best exemplified in the Indo-European nobility, whose Aryan, tripartite social structure became a caste referent to nature itself, and the basis for all high cultures that came after. Orders of value were codified according to nature's dictates, and Europeans established their customs on these hard universal laws. The legacy of this arrangement became embedded in the traditional Western view of nature, greatly influencing its racial and cultural development, and even its very history. The right-wing attitude towards nature, and to life itself, is distinctly opposed by the leftist view, and therefore, its ecological principles differ considerably, whereas the religion of egalitarianism, which is supported by both branches of leftist ecology, proposes a reduced anthropocentrism, whereby all things are equal. In the traditional doctrine, this is negated by the infallible truth of universal inequality. For example, as Savitri Devi observed, a lone lion striding upon the Sahel is of far greater worth than a degenerate human, given the lion's greater conformity to the natural order. For this reason, both traditional metaphysics and an ecology viewed from the right require that we reject the fraudulent humanitarianism of the modern left, according to which each and every human and non-human life has equal value. This introduces a regressive set of traits into the society as a whole, collapsing caste systems and the natural order, while enshrining false gods such as democratism, economism, and materialism. Right-wing ecology entails a rejection of both Marxist communist and neoliberal economics, the former for its egalitarian leveling and reductionist view of man as merely an industrial unit, and the latter for its globalist policy-making and hatred of nation-states. Economy-driven political faiths regard the earth as a collection of resources for the satisfaction of human desires, which can then be used as lures for those being governed. Right-wing ecology, on the other hand, rejects materialism and its manifestation of wanton, unnatural desires. It detests technologies that encourage hedonism, ugliness, convenience, and industrial want, preferring those that embrace traditional, organic uses of the land. It considers deurbanization as an essential requirement for sustainable total human life oriented with nature, for the traditional ecological philosophy seeks population balance. It recognizes that mass immigration into the West will upend this balance, turning once beautiful countrysides into carcasses, while giving jurisdiction of all sacred land to a hostile liberal political class. Quality and quantity are mutually exclusive, and contrary to the slurs often laid against it, the true right believes that differentiation and variety are necessary attributes of nature, and it seeks to preserve cultural, ethnic, and racial distinctions. For cultures are fragile yet complex ecosystems, manifested by distinct DNA over millennia. These are divinely ordained and must be preserved at all cost. Seen in this light, right-wing ecology will be a necessary feature in the restoration of traditional Western society. It demands authenticity towards one's kin and the civilization we choose to build, with nature as the central governing agent. It demands recognition for the cultural and historical soil from which we emerged, and a collective European consciousness, willing to preserve the traditions and memory of our European forefathers. This reverence towards the cosmic order will involve a mindful view of the environment, but without the political levers which our ruling class uses to dispossess us of it. For our ecology worships natural beauty and raw power, which continually serve to remind us of the transcendent wisdom of the whole.